This is a skinless corn snake. It's been soaking in alcohol for a while, although it hasn't turned grayish-white as you see, but it has hardened quite a bit. After cleaning the innards, we'll add some baking soda, boiling water, and now our snake is cooked with a meaty aroma. This will make it quite a bit easier to remove the meat from the snake bone later on. Hello everyone, I'm Shioi. Today we're using the skeleton of a corn snake to make a cool sword display piece. Sodium hydroxide is highly corrosive, so make sure you wear mask and gloves. Once the meat turns jelly-like, take it out and rinse it. There's more meat in some places and less in others. Wait until it's thoroughly soaked. The ribs fell apart entirely. Also damaged some small bones. It's recommended to remove some of the flesh in advance. The scattered ribs are beyond repair. Before the spine falls apart completely, let's string them together with fishing wire. Then bleach it with hydrogen peroxide. Clean it. Removing the last round's tissue. Completely bleach it. Clean it thoroughly. There's still a lot of meat in the skull, needs to be cleaned out. It doesn't feel clean enough, so I heated it with a low concentration sodium hydroxide solution. And as a result, the bones became a little too brittle. Take it out, clean it, and let it dry. Reattach the fallen teeth. Maybe it's not a super good idea to make a display piece with such a tiny snake. We're going to be losing a lot of details. Getting ready to clean up the skull, teeth, ribs, and vertebrae. Arrange them in a circle sequentially. Why arrange them like this? I have no idea. While organizing, I discovered two sets of vertebrae growing together. I don't even know how long it took to finish sorting these ribs. While completing this humongous puzzle, I was thinking, is it a little too boring if we just rearrange it into the shape of a snake? What if we do something more fun? Let's use our creativity here a little bit and think. What else can we make from snake bones aside from a bracelet, lol? A weapon? Maybe a knife? Actually, bone tools existed in the Stone Age. Of course, such delicate bones as snake bones is not super useful as an actual knife, but that's fine. Since we are making a display piece anyways, the initial plan is to use thin vertebrae for the blade and ribs for the body. Thick vertebrae are used for the handle, extending and spreading into a knife shape. Use fine wire as the framework for the knife tip. Connect the stainless steel tubes as the knife frame. Glue them together. At first, I used 401 glue. Later found that welding glue works better. Next, we'll work on the handle. It looks like a part of an electrical kit. Let's fix it in place as the knife handle core. Who'd want to hear spoilers, right? Let's use this as a foreshadowing then. Secure it well, then use vertical clay as the handle. Let's refine the shape. Start rolling up the handle. Although this super glue doesn't look great, it's actually quite robust and adds some strength to the handle. Let's make a detachable blade. Fitting them as blade-shaped vertebrae. I originally wanted to make it into a double helix shape, but the connected vertebrae have limited curvature, and it ended up in its current form. Pack stone powder clay into the knife handle's gaps. Before moving from ribs to the body, we still have some interesting assembly stages to go through. It's not just about sorting from short to long. The rib in the middle of the shoe is the longest. The front and back ribs are relatively short, and there's a slight difference in shape and curve. Plus, there's a left-right distinction, so I ended up removing 4 rows. Start attaching the ribs. Generally speaking, these nail-like serrations serve as the blade edge. It will be more destructive. Considering its fragility, I'll use it as the back of the knife instead. It gives a sense of power and agility. The protrusion above the vertebra looks really sharp and thin. It's really perfect for making the blade. The knife shape below continues into this part. They look like a snake's tail, but actually it's the tongue and neck parts. It's also sharp and thin. It can serve as a second blade. The connection here between the tongue and the neck is not the original anymore, so the rib here feels a bit off. As for the skull, let's try to restore it as much as possible. I had no prior experience making a hyoid bone specimen, so I looked up some reference and assembled it roughly. I did randomly piece together the back eye socket area. The final part is the bottom of the handle. I've always struggled to find a modest yet luxurious idea, until I saw the dragon's eye I drew last year. Wrap it in clay. Attach it to the knife's head. Add a few bone spurs that we have left over. Still has that vibe of youthful fantasy. Start coloring. It already kind of looked like a corn cob. Now it looks more accurate. With a fragile sword like this, you can't directly place them on a table. So let's make a cheap knife stand. Bend the brass wire. Even out the cut. A cheap piece of wood. Drill a hole. Smooth it out. Apply oil. Done. My brain has been totally drained by this sword at this point. There is no creativity left in me anymore. Please take a look at our final snake sword here. This is the last ripple. 55 centimeters in length, 2.5 centimeters wide, 52 grams in weight. Made from the skeleton of a naturally deceased pet corn snake. From this angle, the blade shape is visible. Like an Ouroboros. It looks somewhat like an infinity symbol. It symbolizes the cycle of the universe. The cycle of life and death. Of course, I made all this up. But it really does shine. This looks really cool. This luminescent material is called cold light. It's brighter than glow-in-the-dark paint. It's dimmer than an LED light. They can bend freely. It glows evenly and lasts long. The only downside is that it requires an external power source. The detachable head serves this purpose. Even though this took a long time. But I did put a lot of effort into it. Planned this for a long time. If I take a while for my next vid, please don't be disappointed. It shows I'm putting in a lot of effort. So you can be expecting a lot from me. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Your attention is the biggest support for me. Forgot to mention. This knife has 0 killing power. It will break if you accidentally knock it. I fixed it several times. It's only for aesthetics, not for slaying.